Oh boy, what a great topic for a video. A wet blanket. Hello and welcome. I've been meaning to make this video for a while. I want to talk about wool blankets. There are a lot of myths and misconceptions about wool blankets, and I'd like to clear a few of them up if possible. But I'd like to start everything off by saying that everything that I'm going to say is based on my personal experience. I live in Canada. There's cold climates here, and it's based on this kind of weather. Got down to about -10 degrees Celsius last night. I've been out in much colder than that. The coldest was like -40 that I've been out camping. I don't recommend -40. So everything is based on my experience. What I say might not pertain to you. So I want to talk about pros, cons. Yeah. So here's some bad things about wool blankets that people don't always mention. So I'm sure we all have seen the video of oh gosh, I really dirtied my wool blanket. That's okay. So we've all seen the video of Karamet Wilderness Ways. I think there's a better video by Lonnie at Far North Bushcraft and Survival. Basically, you lie down in it like this, you wrap it up like this, like this. Hopefully we all know what I'm talking about. So, when it's nighttime and you're all burritoed up in your wool blanket, you will unravel. It's going to happen. This can be mitigated a couple of ways. Some people like blanket pins. I like to put a big hoodie around my feet. Put your feet through the hood of the hoodie. Pull the rest of it up around you. That'll help. But it won't do a perfect job. It will not do a perfect job. Some cold air is still going to get in. Con number 2. And you know what? That's a big one. That's a big one, is that it's not perfect. It won't cover you perfectly throughout the night. So you're not going to be as well rested because you're going to be struggling with it at some point. Unless you sleep perfectly still, at which point I don't know what to say about that. I think you're a psychopath. No, but I don't know. Anyway, con number 2. The weather's really bad right now. Is that? Yeah, sure, that's con number 2. Con number 3. You're going to have different numbers of layers of wool on your body in different locations. For example, if you have 2 blankets, you might have 8 layers on your feet and 8 layers on your legs, but you're only going to have 6 layers over your stomach, and you're going to only have 2 layers over your left shoulder. It's just the nature of wrapping up in a rectangular piece of cloth. You're going to have different layers at different spots, and so part of you is going to be colder. Here's another misconception, that it replaces a sleeping bag and you can just hop in and it's like a bed. No, when you're sleeping outside in a wool blanket, you are in all of your clothes. You are wearing your winter jacket. If you can afford it, you're wearing your boots too. These wool blankets, they're cool. They're it's a romantic idea, but they're not magic. Okay, a major con of a wool blanket is they do nothing for conduction of heat. What do I mean by that? If you are lying on an inadequately insulated surface, the earth will suck the heat right out of you, at which point you don't want to lie on your back. You want to lie on your side. You want to minimize the surface area that is contacting the cold ground. Here's a big con to wool blankets. They are tremendously bulky and heavy. Each one of these blankets is 5 pounds. I brought 2 of them with me this time. That means I'm carrying 10 pounds of just blanket. Imagine if your sleeping bag weighed 10 pounds. You wouldn't even buy it in the first place. But not only the weight, I said they're bulky, they're very bulky. A bulky doesn't begin to cut it. I have a 75 liter backpack. It fit my tent stove and my wool blankets and nothing else. The wool blankets take up the entire backpack. They are very large, very bulky, and that's a downside. If you're going backcountry camping, it's a huge consideration. There are a lot of good things about wool blankets. You can use them as a shelter, I guess. I wouldn't do that. Why would you do that? Just bring a tent with you. What the heck? Um, here's a very good thing about a wool blanket is this is very dense wool. A sleeping bag, a down-filled or synthetic down-filled sleeping bag, keeps you warm via insulation, via the loft in the material. Once you lie on it and you compress it, it loses that loft and it gets colder on that side. A wool blanket will not do that. A wool blanket will maintain its insulative value no matter how much pressure you put on it. So that's a huge plus. Okay, plus number 2. Yeah, did I mention the whole thing about wool blankets keeping you warm when they're wet? Well, that's a half truth. A wool blanket will maintain up to 80% of its insulative value. That doesn't mean it's going to keep you 100% warm. That doesn't mean it's going to keep you 80% warm. If your wool blanket gets wet, it'll be better than a wet sleeping bag. That's for sure. There are considerations to be made when you're thinking about a wet wool blanket. Oh boy, what a great topic for a video. A wet blanket. There are considerations to be made. For example, what is your source of water ingress? Did you spill water on it and it'll dry off at the fire, or are you lying on a partially wet surface? Is there water seeping in? Yeah, all things to consider, but point is that a wool blanket will keep you warm even when it's wet. That's a blanket statement, and pardon the pun, it's a blanket statement and it's not 100% true. So, all in all, in summary, wool blankets are very good if you can afford them. Um, that's talking about the money, because these are very expensive. I sold a guitar to buy these. These are very expensive, but also if you can afford the weight when you're traveling, if you can afford the bulk, there are a lot of considerations to be made. Obviously, I use them. I like them. But I think every single time I'm out camping with a wool blanket, there is at least one point during the night where I say to myself, man, I wish I brought a sleeping bag instead. And there's another, at least 2 times during the night where I say, man, I wish I was home. So those are my opinions based on my experience with wool blankets. I don't know. I hope you enjoyed a little bit. I'm gonna just do this. I'm just gonna show off these wool blankets because they're dirty at the moment. Because they're nice. This is one. And then this is the other one. This is the same scarlet Hudson Bay blanket that's used in that famous Karamat Wilderness Ways video. Well, not the exact same blanket, but you get what I mean. Oh. One more thing. One other huge advantage to a wool blanket is that you can use them as clothing. Just like I'm doing right now. Just wrap up in a wool blanket. You can go out and do everything you need to do, and they will keep you nice and warm. I am wearing a denim jacket, a shearling denim jacket. It's only good to about -1, and I believe it's a little bit colder than that at the moment. So I've supplemented it with the wool blankets, and I'm staying relatively warm. Yeah, something to consider. Try it out. Or don't. Don't try it out. Don't listen to me. Don't just stay inside. Stay inside and stay warm. That should be my catchphrase. Stay inside and stay warm.